Welcome to the Wellness Lab Digest, where we help you to absorb powerful, life-changing insights from top wellness experts with our daily, bite-sized wellness podcast summaries. Each episode is packed with distilled, powerful takeaways to boost your health and well-being. To support this podcast, please scroll down on whatever app you're listening on. Ratings and reviews are helpful. Even better, just send the show to a friend. Or check out our sponsors at the bottom of the page, or simply click the Support the Show link.
Okay, ready to dive in. Today, it's all about kids and food.
The big question is how to get kids eating healthy in a world full of, sugary snacks and processed stuff.
We've got some great sources to help us unpack this.
Yeah, including a recent episode of the ZOE Science and Nutrition podcast.
With experts like Rhiannon Lambert and Dr. Federica Amati, plus some really interesting research articles.
One thing that's clear from all this is that parents are up against a lot. There's just so MUCH ultra-processed food aimed at kids.
It really is everywhere, isn't it?
It's overwhelming, honestly.
But before we even get into the supermarket, let's talk about what's actually eyeing this stuff.
Yeah, what makes it so concerning?
That ZOE podcast had some stats that honestly made me do a double take.
Oh, yeah. Like that 72% of kids' calories come from ultra-processed food.
Wait, 72%? That's more than adults.
Right, it is. It's higher than adults.
No wonder so many parents feel like they're fighting a losing battle.
And it's not just the obvious things, like chips and candy.
You mean like...
It's those things that seem healthy, like yogurt with cartoon characters on them, or those breakfast cereals that say they're whole grain.
Oh, totally. Or granola bars. You think they're healthy, but...
Right. They're full of sugar, bad fats, ingredients you can't even pronounce.
It's deceptive marketing at its finest.
It really is. They make parents feel good about the choice, even if the food itself is kind of,
questionable.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to look beyond the packaging. Don't just see high protein or good source of fiber and think you're done.
Flip that box over.
Read those ingredients. You might be surprised.
Okay, so we know these ultra-processed foods are a problem, but what does that actually mean for kids' health? Like, is it really a big deal if they have a few extra cookies?
It goes way beyond a few extra pounds, honestly. We're talking about potential long-term health issues, things that can affect their whole lives.
Oh, wow.
Dr. Amati talked about the increase in cavities in young kids. Yeah, in the UK especially, some kids are needing teeth removed under general anesthesia before they're even 7 years old.
Oh my gosh, that's awful. And it's just from too much sugar.
Exactly. But it goes even deeper than that. It affects the gut microbiome.
Okay, we hear a lot about the gut microbiome these days, but why should we care? What does it actually do?
It's involved in everything. Digestion, absorbing nutrients, your immune system, even mental health.
Really?
It's like a garden,
Yeah.
If you only plant one type of flower, it might look okay, but it won't be very strong. A garden with lots of different plants, though, that can handle things. Same with our gut. We need lots of different good bacteria to keep everything working right.
So these ultra-processed foods,
They're like weed killer for your gut. They get rid of the good bacteria and let the bad stuff grow. And that leads to inflammation.
And inflammation is linked to...
all kinds of chronic diseases later in life. Obesity, type 2 diabetes, even heart disease.
Wow. So we're not just talking about a tummy ache here. We're talking about setting kids up for a lifetime of good health. Or, well, maybe not so good health.
Exactly. So it's super important to start early, create a healthy food environment at home from the beginning.
Okay, so let's talk solutions. I know the ZOE podcast had some really practical advice, like stocking the freezer with good stuff.
Oh, that freezer tip is gold. Whole grain flatbreads, pre-made sauces, huge time savers.
Especially on busy nights when takeout is so tempting.
Right. Instead of grabbing that frozen pizza, you can pull out a flatbread, add some sauce, veggies, cheese, and boom, healthy meal in minutes.
Total game changer. I'm already mentally reorganizing my freezer. And they also talked about breakfast. It doesn't have to be cereal all the time, right?
There's sugary cereals marketed to kids, sugar bombs in disguise.
Yeah.
Try yogurt bowls with fruit and granola, smoothies, even savory stuff like scrambled eggs or avocado toast.
I love that. Shake things up a bit. Who says breakfast has to be sweet?
Right. But I know a lot of parents worry that if they ban treats completely, their kids will just want them more.
That's a good point.
It's not about making treats bad or forbidden.
It's about balance, right?
Exactly. Healthy choices most of the time, treats is a sometimes thing.
So cookies and ice cream are still okay sometimes.
Absolutely. It's just if you only ever eat junk food, your body won't be as healthy. If you nourish it with good stuff most of the time, you're going to be stronger, you know?
That's a great analogy. So how do we actually do that? Create a healthy food environment without every meal turning into a battle.
One of the best things is to give kids choices. Within a healthy range, obviously.
So instead of eat your broccoli,
Yeah.
it's more like,
Do you want broccoli or carrots with your chicken?
oh, I like that.
It lets them feel like they're part of the decision.
Makes them more invested in the meal.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot between, being in control and giving them some freedom and get them involved in the whole process as much as possible.
What do you mean?
Like meal planning, grocery shopping, even cooking. Helps them build a good relationship with food, understand where it comes from,
I love that. Instead of a chore, it becomes a family activity.
and a chance to teach them about nutrition in a fun way.
So less lecturing about sugar and more like making smoothies together.
Precisely. Education, not intimidation.
Okay, so that's the home environment. But what about the outside world?
Yeah.
How do we deal with all the junk food ads, the temptation everywhere?
That's tricky.
It really is.
But the ZOE podcast had some good advice for that, too.
Oh, like where?
Well, like with grandparents. You know how they love to spoil the grandkids with treats? Have an honest conversation. Explain your goals, ask for their support, and, being consistent. Most grandparents, they just want the kids to be happy.
I'll help if they understand, right?
Exactly. And for those inevitable ice cream trucks and birthday parties and holidays, set boundaries ahead of time. Talk to your kids about how treats are okay sometimes, but not every day.
So it's about helping them make mindful choices, not just giving in.
Yeah. And you can even give them strategies for resisting temptation, like choosing a healthier alternative or just saying no thank you. Give them the tools to make good choices, even when there's pressure.
I love that. But what about school lunches? That feels like a whole other level of difficulty.
Packing a healthy lunchbox that kids will actually eat. It's a challenge, for sure.
It is.
But the ZOE podcast had some good tips for that, too. Think outside the sandwich. Pack things like pasta salad, wraps, even leftovers.
Make it interesting.
Right. Variety is key. And get the kids involved in packing their lunch. Let them choose their fruits, veggies, snacks. They'll be more likely to eat it if they helped pick it out.
I'm noticing a theme here. Empowering kids to make choices.
Within a healthy framework, of course. It's that balance again, guidance and autonomy.
You know, one thing that really stood out to me was this whole gut microbiome thing. It's like a whole world inside us that we don't even see, but it's so important.
It is fascinating, isn't it? The more we learn about it, the more we realize just how much it affects everything.
And the ZOE experts, they had this great idea for explaining it to kids, like feeding your belly bugs.
It's brilliant. It makes nutrition fun.
Instead of calories and vitamins, it's about happy, healthy bacteria.
It's like having a pet that lives inside you, right? And you got to feed it the right food.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it really highlights how important healthy eating is. It's not just about how you look, it's about how you feel.
Exactly. It's about having energy, being healthy for your whole life. So how do we put this gut microbiome focus into action? What can we do every day to feed those good belly bugs?
Well, they said fiber is super important.
Think of fiber as the superhero food for your gut bacteria.
So lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans.
All of that. It acts like a prebiotic, basically fertilizing the good bacteria in your gut and helping them grow.
And processed foods and sugar. Those are the bad guys.
Pretty much. They mess up the balance of your microbiome and can lead to inflammation.
So feed the good guys and starve the bad guys. Right.
Exactly. And another thing about the microbiome is that diversity is key. Just like a rainforest with lots of different plants is healthier, having lots of different good bacteria in your gut makes you healthier too.
So how do we do that? Get more variety.
Eat lots of different plant-based foods. Think like a rainbow on your plate. The more colors, the more diverse your gut bacteria are likely to be.
Makes sense.
And try adding some fermented foods too, like yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi.
Oh, right. Those are probiotics.
Yep. Live bacteria that add to the good stuff in your gut.
So it's like sending in reinforcements for the good guys.
You got it. So focus on fiber, limit processed food, add some probiotics, and you're creating a gut microbiome that keeps you healthy.
Wow, it's amazing how much is going on in there. And it makes you realize that feeding your kids, it's not just about filling them up, it's about nourishing them on a deeper level.
It really is. It's about giving them what they need to thrive.
Yeah.
There's another nutrient that's super important for kids, and it often gets overlooked.
What is it? Oh, right, iron. I know it's important for growing, but I'm not sure I fully understand why.
It helps carry oxygen throughout the body. And without enough iron, Kids can get tired, weak, even have developmental delays. It's especially important for girls, once they start menstruating.
Because they're losing iron through blood loss.
Exactly.
So how do we make sure they're getting enough? Is it just like serving them spinach every night?
Spinach is good, but there are actually two types of iron: heme iron and non-heme iron.
Okay.
Heme iron is in animal products like meat and fish, and it's easier for your body to absorb. Non-heme iron is in plant-based foods like beans and lentils. It's not absorbed as easily, but there are ways to boost it.
Like what?
One simple trick is to pair those non-heme iron foods with vitamin C.
Ah, interesting.
Like squeeze some lemon juice on your lentil soup or have some orange slices with your spinach salad. Makes a big difference.
I'm writing that down. And what about iron supplements? Are those ever necessary?
They can be helpful if there's a deficiency, but always talk to a doctor first.
Okay, so the bottom line is pay attention to iron, especially for girls. It's crucial.
Absolutely.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have. The challenges of feeding kids today, the gut microbiome, even iron.
It's been a whirlwind tour of kids' nutrition.
It has, but it's all important stuff. And the good news is, it doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Right, you don't have to be a nutritionist to raise healthy eaters.
Exactly. Just be informed, make changes gradually, and be a good role model for your kids.
Yeah, kids are always watching, aren't they?
They're like sponges absorbing everything. If they see you enjoying lots of different foods, including fruits and veggies, they're more likely to do the same.
It's about creating that culture of health at home.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be complicated or restrictive. Just find what works for your family and make small changes over time.
I like that. So what's the biggest takeaway for our listeners?
You don't have to be perfect. It's a journey. There will be days when your kids eat nothing but chicken nuggets, and that's okay.
That is reassuring to hear. Because it's easy to feel like we're failing if we're not doing everything right.
Don't be so hard on yourself. Just focus on progress. Celebrate the small wins. You're not alone in this.
Well said. That's our deep dive into the world of kids and food, part 1. We've explored the challenges, talked about the gut microbiome, and uncovered some strategies for creating a healthier food environment at home.
Lots to think about.
There is. And we're just getting started.
Stay tuned for part 2. We'll be talking about picky eaters, navigating social situations, and packing healthy lunchboxes. We'll also look at mindful eating, hydration, and sleep.
It's going to be jam-packed.
We can't wait to share more.
So until then, keep those bellies happy. We'll see you back here soon for part 2.
One thing that really stuck with me from those ZOE experts, as we talk about creating this healthy food environment, was don't demonize food.
Oh, that's so important. I think so many of us grew up with that good food, bad food thing. It's hard to break free from.
It really is. But it's so important to have a balanced approach, Moderation, not making things forbidden.
Because when we label foods as bad, it just creates this, guilt around eating. And that can lead to unhealthy relationships with food, right?
Totally. And it can backfire, especially with kids. You tell a kid they can never have candy, what happens?
They want it even more.
Exactly. It's like the forbidden fruit.
Or forbidden Fruit Loops, in this case.
But seriously, it's about teaching them to enjoy treats without going overboard. See them as a special thing, not something to be scared of.
So how do we do that? How do we teach kids to have that healthy relationship with food where they can enjoy treats but not, go crazy?
Well, I think it starts with us. We have to model that behavior. If we're always snacking on junk food and talking about how bad we are for eating it, what are our kids learning?
It's that do as I say, not as I do thing. And kids always pick up on that.
They do. So we have to show them what a healthy relationship with food looks like. Enjoy a variety of foods ourselves, including those fruits and veggies. And have treats sometimes, but not all the time. And watch how we talk about food.
So instead of, I'm so bad for eating this cake, it's more like,
I'm really enjoying this cake.
Yeah, subtle but important.
It changes how kids see it.
And it's also about teaching kids to listen to their bodies, right? Know when they're actually hungry versus just bored or, eating their feelings.
Such an important skill. And it takes practice. We can help by asking questions like, are you actually hungry or just bored? Or are you eating because you're sad or because your body needs fuel?
Those are great questions. And creating that mealtime environment where they can focus on the food is helpful too.
No TV, no phones, no toys.
Just good food and good company.
It helps kids pay attention to what they're eating, savor each bite, and you can encourage them to use all their senses too.
Oh, how do you mean?
Ask them to describe the food. What color is it? What's the texture like? How does it smell? What does it taste like?
Makes it more of an experience.
Exactly. And another key part of mindful eating, portion control.
Teach them to eat until they're satisfied, not stuffed.
Right. Help them understand their body's signals. One tip is to use smaller plates and bowls.
I've heard that can actually trick your brain into thinking you're eating more.
It's true. Your eyes see a full plate, even if it's less food overall.
Interesting. I'm going to try that. What about serving family style, where everyone takes what they want?
That can be great. Gives kids control over their portions, might help prevent overeating, and less food waste because no one's forced to clean their plate if they're not hungry.
Good points. Okay, so we've talked about mindful eating, portions. What about snacks? Are those okay, or should we be limiting them?
Snacks can definitely be part of a healthy diet. It's just about choosing the right ones and having set snack times.
So instead of chips and cookies, it's more like
Fruit, veggies, yogurt, nuts, things that give them energy and nutrients without those sugar crashes.
and having snack times helps prevent that all-day grazing, right?
Yeah, helps kids regulate their appetite.
Structure is key. Okay, let's talk about meal planning. I know it can feel daunting, but it can be so helpful.
It saves so much time and stress, honestly, and helps make sure everyone's getting what they need.
Where do you even start?
Take a look at what you already have, in the pantry and fridge. Helps you use what you've got.
Prevents waste and saves money.
Exactly. Then you can start thinking about meals based on what's on sale at the store or what's in season.
That's a good point. I get stuck making the same thing sometimes.
We all do. Get creative. There are tons of recipes online, in cookbooks, and you can even get the kids involved in planning.
Oh, I like that.
Makes them more excited about eating healthy.
And teaches them life skills too, like budgeting, planning.
Exactly. Let them help pick recipes, make the grocery list, even prep ingredients. Make it a family thing.
Speaking of involving kids, what about cooking? I know it can be messy, but it's so rewarding.
It really is. It's quality time together, teaching them about food. And it can help them actually like cooking, which is great for their health in the long run.
So how do we get started with that? Any tips for those of us who are a little hesitant to let our kids loose in the kitchen?
Start simples. Give them age-appropriate tasks. Little ones can help wash, produce. Older kids can chop, measure, stir, and make it fun.
Put on some music. Don't stress about the mess.
Exactly. It's all part of the learning process.
Thinking back to the gut microbiome stuff, is there anything specific we can do to support our kids' gut health through food choices?
Absolutely. One of the best things is to make sure they're getting enough prebiotics.
Prebiotics, is that like probiotics?
Prebiotics are a type of fiber that feeds the good bacteria in our gut, like fertilizer for the good guys.
Okay. So where do we find these prebiotics?
Onions, garlic, bananas, asparagus, whole grains, more reasons to eat those veggies.
I'm noticing a pattern here. The things that are good for us are also good for our gut bacteria.
It's all connected, and it shows how our bodies are designed to work on these real whole foods.
Okay, so prebiotics are like the fertilizer. What about probiotics? Where do those fit in?
Probiotics are live bacteria that can actually add to the good stuff in your gut. They help rebalance things.
So like reinforcements.
Exactly. And a great source of probiotics is fermented foods, like yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir.
Oh, right. Those have live and active cultures.
Yeah. So you've got prebiotics to feed the good bacteria you already have, and probiotics to add more good guys.
A two-pronged approach.
That's it. You're creating a healthy ecosystem in your gut.
This is fascinating. It really makes you think about how feeding your kids is about so much more than just filling their bellies.
It's about their whole health, inside and out.
Okay, before we get too philosophical, I want to touch on something else that's really important but often overlooked.
What's that?
Hydration.
Ah, yes. Water. Essential for everything. It makes up most of our body weight,
It's easy to forget about when you're focused on food.
It is, but dehydration can lead to fatigue, headaches, all sorts of problems.
So how do we make sure kids are drinking enough? I know some kids just want juice or soda all day long.
It's definitely a challenge, but make water available all the time, have a water bottle handy, encourage them to sip throughout the day.
I've heard that having a special water bottle they picked out themselves can help.
Oh, that's a great idea. Makes it more fun. You can also make water more exciting by adding fruit or herbs, like cucumber and mint or strawberry and basil.
Spa water.
Exactly. And so much better than sugary drinks. Those are just empty calories and they can actively dehydrate you.
So stick to water, milk, unsweetened drinks.
The best choices for healthy hydration. Okay, there's one more thing I want to talk about before we move on to part 3, and it might seem a little out of left field, but it actually plays a huge role in eating habits.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it? Sleep. Right, of course. Sleep is important for everything. But how does it connect to eating?
Well, when kids don't get enough sleep, they tend to crave more sugary processed foods.
Really? Why is that?
Lack of sleep messes with your hormones, the ones that regulate your appetite. So you feel hungrier, you crave those high-calorie foods, and those foods actually make it harder to sleep well. It's a vicious cycle.
Ah. So prioritizing sleep is important not just for their overall health, but also for their eating habits.
Exactly. How much sleep they need depends on their age, but most kids need between 9 and 11 hours a night.
That's a lot. And it's not just about quantity, it's quality too, right?
Absolutely. A relaxing bedtime routine helps. Warm bath, reading a book together, dim lights, calming music.
Make sure the room is dark, quiet, cool.
All those things help.
Yeah.
And limit screen time before bed. That blue light from screens messes with melatonin, which is the hormone that helps you sleep.
So no phones or tablets in bed.
Best to power down all screens at least an hour before bed. Let their brains unwind.
Those are great tips. And honestly, I think we could all use a better bedtime routine, myself included.
We all could. Sleep is so essential. And when we're well rested, we just make better choices overall.
That's true, for sure. So we've covered a lot in part 2 here. We talked about having a healthy relationship with food, the importance of hydration and sleep, and went even deeper into that whole gut microbiome thing.
It's been quite a journey.
It has, and we're not done yet.
In part 3, we'll get even more practical. We'll talk about picky eaters, dealing with junk food in social situations, and packing those healthy lunchboxes. Plus, we'll touch on mindful eating, meal planning, and cooking with kids.
Sounds like we've got a lot more to explore.
We do.
Stay tuned for part 3 of this deep dive into the world of kids and food. We'll be back soon with even more insights and ideas. Until then, keep those plates colorful and those bellies happy.
You know, one thing that keeps coming up as we talk about all this is mindful eating.
It's such a buzzword these days, but it really is powerful.
And it's not just for adults. We can teach kids to be more mindful eaters, too.
Totally. But what does that even look like with kids?
Well, mindful eating is about, really paying attention to the food, the whole experience of eating. Slowing down, savoring each bite, being present, not just, shoveling food in your mouth while watching TV.
Right. It's about engaging your senses, actually appreciating what you're eating.
Exactly. And when you eat mindfully, you're more likely to notice when you're actually full. So less overeating.
That's a good point. I know I've definitely been guilty of mindless eating, especially when I'm stressed. But when I actually take the time to, savor my food, I enjoy it so much more.
And you tend to make healthier choices, too, when you're really paying attention.
So how do we teach kids to do that? It seems kind of abstract for little ones,
It can be, but there are some simple things you can do. Creating a calm mealtime environment is key.
So no screens at the table.
Exactly. No TV, phones, toys, just the food and the people.
And encourage them to use all their senses.
Right. Yeah. Ask them to describe the food. What color is it? How does it feel? What does it smell like? What's the taste?
Oh, I like that. Turns it into a little exploration.
And it helps them really connect with the food they're eating.
And portion control, that's part of mindful eating too, right? Teaching them to eat until they're satisfied, not stuffed.
Absolutely. Helping them recognize those hunger and fullness cues. One tip is to use smaller plates and bowls.
Yeah, I've heard that can actually make a difference.
It kind of tricks your brain, You see a full plate, even if it's less food overall.
I'm totally trying that. What about serving family style, where everyone takes what they want?
That can be great. Gives kids that sense of control, which helps with portion control. And it can cut down on food waste because no one's forced to eat everything on their plate.
Good points.
Oh.
Okay, what about snacks? Are those okay, or should we be trying to limit them?
Snacks can definitely be part of a healthy diet. It's about choosing wisely and having designated snack times.
So instead of chips and cookies, we're talking more like
Fruits, veggies, yogurt, nuts, things that give them energy and nutrients without those sugar crashes.
and having snack times. That helps prevent just constant grazing all day long.
Exactly. Helps kids regulate their appetite.
Structure is key. Speaking of structure, let's talk about meal planning. I know so many parents dread it, but it can be a lifesaver.
Oh, it really can. Saves time, money, stress, and helps you make sure you're offering a variety of foods.
But where do you even start? It feels overwhelming.
Start simple. Look at what you already have in the fridge and pantry. Use that as a starting point.
Prevents waste, saves money. Good advice.
And then think about meals based on what's on sale, what's in season.
I like that. I tend to get stuck making the same things over and over.
We all do. Get creative, try new recipes. There are so many resources online and in cookbooks. And don't be afraid to get the kids involved in the planning.
Oh, I love that idea.
Makes them more interested in the food.
And they learn some life skills along the way.
Budgeting, planning, making decisions, it's all part of it. Let them help pick recipes, write the grocery list, even prep ingredients. Make it a family thing.
Speaking of getting kids involved, let's talk about cooking together. It can be a little chaotic, I know, but so rewarding.
It is. It's quality time. You're teaching them about food, creating memories, and it can really help them develop a love of cooking.
Which, in the long run, is great for their health.
Absolutely. When kids are involved in the cooking process, they're more likely to try new foods, appreciate the effort that goes into making a meal.
So what's the best way to get started? For those of us who are a little, hesitant to let our kids loose in the kitchen.
Keep it simple. Give them age-appropriate tasks. Little kids can wash produce, bigger kids can chop, measure, stir, and most importantly, make it fun.
Put on some music, have a dance party, don't worry about the mess.
Exactly. It's all part of the learning experience.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in these 3 parts. From the challenges of feeding kids today, to the importance of the gut microbiome, mindful eating, hydration, sleep, meal planning, cooking together, it's been a whirlwind.
It has. But hopefully it's given our listeners a lot to think about, a lot of practical ideas to try.
We really believe that every kid deserves to have a healthy and happy relationship with food. And we hope this has given our listeners the tools to make that happen.
It's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
It's about making those small changes over time, celebrating the wins, being patient, supportive.
And remembering that we're all in this together.
Well said. So let's raise a glass, maybe a glass of water, to a future filled with delicious, nutritious, and joyful meals.
To nourishing our kids, helping them thrive.
Cheers to that. And thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of kids and food. We hope you'll join us again next time for another fascinating exploration. Until then, happy cooking and happy eating.
Thank you for listening to the Wellness Lab Digest. If you receive value from the podcast, I have 3 asks of you. 1, share the show on social media with your friends and tag the show at the Wellness Lab Digest on Instagram. Number 2, please leave a rating and review in whatever app you're listening on. And last but not least, please let me know what topics you would like us to cover in the future. You can contact me at empoweringmen.org/contact. And right now we have a free ebook to get you started on your wellness journey as well. That's empoweringmen.org/contact. To support this podcast, check out our sponsors at the bottom of the page or simply click the Support the Show link